All right, my name is Paul Gibson, and I am one of the co-founders of Retake Our Democracy with my wife, Roxanne. What I'm going to do right now is just tell you a little bit about Retake Our Democracy. How many, by a show of hands, how many people here get our blog every? Oh yeah, there's a lot of people out there that do. What Retake Our Democracy is about, it started in November, like 45 minutes after we woke up and found out we had Donald Trump as our president-elect. It's sort of an outgrowth of Santa Fe for Bernie. Roxanne and I were the Santa Fe coordinators for that campaign, and when that ended badly, we followed his advice and went local and founded Retake the Roundhouse and worked with a whole slew of progressive groups who are represented here today, many of them in the New Mexico Progressive Coalition, and organized canvassing and phone banking and voter registration and get out the votes. We targeted a select number of races, and we won almost all of them, and now we're passing bills in this House instead of having them get killed in committee. And so, yeah. And so if we keep building and building, in 2018, we'll also have a governor who will sign those bills. Yes. So we ask you to stay engaged. So what we did when we founded Retake Our Democracy is something different. We decided we were going to go nonpartisan. We want to have conversations with Republicans and Democrats. And our motto is sort of engage, educate, activate. We feel that we need to find common ground with other people. We need to have conversations. We need to have good listening skills. Going, you're wrong all the time isn't getting us very far. It didn't get us very far when we Bernie people were talking to Hillary people, and it didn't work very well when Hillary people were talking to Trump people. Maybe we need to listen to the other people a little bit, and that's part of what Retake Our Democracy is about. So we also want to make it very much easier for people who are very busy but want to be active and want to have a voice. And so what we're doing is we have a website that has all kinds of tools and issue summaries and speaking points and contact information. So you have, if, for example, when Somos and Pueblo, Unido had advanced a resolution with the city council to expand sanctuary policies here, we promoted the heck out of that. We had speaking points, we had the telephone numbers of all the city council's members, we organized people to come to the city council hearing, and if there were like 400 people at the finance committee, there were 2 city council members who were on the fence before that meeting, and they got off the fence, and it was a unanimous vote. In any case, that's what we're trying to do on a number of issues. And some people ask me, what's the difference between you and like Indivisible and the what are they called, the huddles and so forth? Well, the difference is, as far as I know, most of Indivisible is focused nationally. What we're trying to do is help people get organized with the city council, with the PRC, with Public Regulation Commission, and with the Roundhouse. And so we have tons of information. We have 60 bills that we're tracking in the Roundhouse right now, and we're putting together what we're calling a justice agenda. And though we're advocating for those bills, we have citizen lobbyists here every day in hearings. I testified today in one of the hearings on tax revenue. And we want to make it easier for people to do that. And it's very important that that kind of thing happen. And that's different than Indivisible. Now we're starting to have communication with them because we don't want to have a lot of overlap and redundancy. We have too much to do to be kind of having our little fiefdoms. And so that may take some time to work out, but we want you to know that that's a very big part of what we're trying to do. So we're also, we offer, another distinction is we offer a lot of training. I told you we want to learn how to listen. One of the things we're going to be working on is providing training in forming alliances. We have one on the 26th of February. EarthCare is putting this on for us, and it's to help people learn how to form respectful alliances with other organizations. Retake Our Democracy doesn't view ourselves as going and saying, okay, Somos wants this resolution passed, we'll take over from here, you guys. No, we get behind Somos and they lead, but we bring the people that maybe they don't have in their constituency together. And oh, I see another one of my speakers, yay. And so that's part of what makes us a little different as well, the trainings and so forth. We're going to have trainings on listening. We're going to have trainings on how to use moral language. We're going to have trainings on community organizing. And an outgrowth of all that is another distinction is we're going to be doing what we call community conversation canvassing. And this is where people go door to door on a block, and they're not going to frequent voters, they're not going to Democrats, they're going to people. They want to have conversations with people. And then when they've gone to every house on that block, there's going to be a house party where those people will get together and share a conversation. They're going to identify some kind of common neighborhood activity they can do together, and they're going to do it. And they're going to start to form a kind of community. And then they're going to get 4 volunteers out of that block, and they're going to do the 4 adjacent blocks. And that's going to ripple out. And in that way, we're going to organize neighbors to talk to neighbors about neighborhood issues, city issues, and state issues. But they're going to start by listening to each other. They're not going to try and convince each other. We're also going to be talking with the Republican Party. One of the innovative things we want to do, we just saw in the Democratic Party the ward elections, and a bunch of progressives won those chairs, and they're committed to being active instead of having no meetings and not responding to emails. But one thing we want to do, we want on a quarterly basis to have ward meetings that are bipartisan with Republicans and Democrats in the same room, having conversation, finding common ground, finding things we can do together, and then maybe, just maybe, we start to see a kind of more participatory democracy that is really what this country was supposed to be about. And in my closing remarks, I'll bring the bad news that we've never had a democracy. But right now, we'll just have some fun. So, if any of you do not get Retake Our Democracy, the blog, and it sounds like something you like, you can get it on your phone right now by just going to retakeourdemocracy.org, scrolling to the bottom of the page, and clicking the blue follow button. So I'd encourage you to do that. So right now I'm going to introduce the heart and soul of Retake Our Democracy, and the co-founder, and my life partner, and my wife, Roxanne Barber. She's going to introduce the speakers.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. This is how we do it. We all get together, we raise our voices, we demand that our government represent us. This is how we're going to make things happen, by everyone coming together. So thank you for being here today. So we have several wonderful speakers for you today. Our first speaker is Eric Griego. He is director of the Working Families Party of New Mexico. He's one of the founding members of the New Mexico Progressive Coalition, and he's also a former member of the New Mexico State Legislature, a true progressive ally. Eric?
Thank you, Roxanne. How about a hand for Paul and Roxanne and all the amazing work they're doing with Retake? They are a force. Are there any progressives out there? All right, well, thanks for showing up and bearing the wind. I'm really glad. I was going to go with the Trump comb over, but I'm really glad, given the wind, that my wife talked me out of it. So I'm Eric Griego from Albuquerque, was in the state senate, and so I spent a lot of time in this building, and I still have a little PTSD over it, but I want to say this is your roundhouse. You are taxpayers, you are voters, and everybody in there works for you, from the 4th floor on down to the guys who are on the floor right now. So do not be ashamed, do not be bashful, do not be worried about asking them and telling them what you believe, whether you're their constituent or not. But if you are their constituent, please, while you're here, how many people have worked the halls, have been here before? How many people are brand new? So those are the veterans. So it's so good to have you here, because we need to demystify what this is about. This is about going and talking to our elected representatives and telling them what we need and what we care about. So the New Mexico Working Families Party, which I'm the state director of, we're just getting off the ground. Some of you, anybody heard of the Working Families Party nationally? Great. So it's a pretty simple thing. We are trying to get Democrats to act like Democrats. It's pretty simple, or what they used to act like. And so we're working with groups like Retake, Progressive Democrats, Our Revolution, Indivisible, lots of groups to try to, as Paul said, keep everybody as much as we can. Even though we're progressive, so we're a little bit like herding cats, but to try to get people working in a common direction to move a progressive agenda. We do three things in addition to fighting for a progressive agenda. We really try to identify, hopefully, folks like some of you to run for office against people who, whether they're Republicans or Democrats or anything else, are not really fighting for working families. And then three, what we really try to do is, so we're trying to recruit folks, promote a progressive agenda, and then we get involved in elections. So this is a great test. There are Democrats in this building right now who are doing great work, who are passing important legislation, and there, unfortunately, are people in both parties who are fighting things like predatory lending reform as we speak, things like really making healthcare accessible to lots of folks as we speak. So I hope some of you will go in there and weigh in, but more importantly, I hope you will talk to some of these legislators and help us get this done in terms of a progressive agenda. The last thing I'll say, and Paul and Roxanne are part of the founding group, the New Mexico Progressive Coalition is trying to get us to sort of really divide the work, try to coordinate our work, to communicate better, to try to move this agenda. There's a lot of energy given what's going on in this country, and so there's lots of ways to plug in. Paul gave you their information. If you want to sort of learn more about the New Mexico Progressive Coalition, it's nmprogressivecoalition.org, and you can go onto there. We're also going to be right out here right after this at 2:30 with a lot of progressive groups talking about kind of what our agenda is. So I want to say the last thing I want to say, because I'm getting the 1 minute, and I don't want anybody to pepper spray me or anything. So only because the wind would probably take it that way. So you know, these are tough times. These are dark times, but they have clearly motivated all of us. And I know we all want to do something. We want to go to rallies. We want to make phone calls. We want to join something. We all want to do something, regardless of the issues we care about. So what we're trying to do today is to get you to really plug into this process and just demystify this process. So please learn as much as you can and commit. We're in the last 30 days of the session. The session ends in mid-March, and there's a lot. We need you to make calls, to send emails, to go to hearings, and to show up and to hold not just your legislator, but all of the legislators accountable. Will you do that? Will you commit to doing that? We need you. Thank you so much for being here.
Our next speaker is Marcela Diaz. She is director of Somos, Pueblo, Unido, and she has spent many years of her life protecting and supporting immigrant families in New Mexico, and she recently led the movement to expand our city's sanctuary policies, and we expect to see that unanimously approved on Wednesday night. So here she is, Marcela Diaz.
Are we ready to stand up for our Constitution? So I'm Marcela, I'm with Somos, Pueblo, Unido. We're a statewide, community-based workers' rights and civil rights organization, and we would not be where we are without all of the support and help from allies across this state. So give yourselves a big hand! As you know, our community is under threat by the assault by the Trump administration. He's using fear to control our communities, to silence our families. He's using unconstitutional threats to scare local policymakers in your community to help him. He's threatening them and making them think that they have to help him to persecute and separate our families. He wants a wall that will cost our families and our taxpayers billions of dollars. Do we want this wall? He wants 15,000 more Border Patrol and ICE agents deployed to our communities to terrorize our families. Do we want those agents in our communities? He wants to lock up children fleeing violence and abject poverty from other countries. And he wants to expedite the deportation of families that are deeply rooted in our communities. Are we okay with that? No! He wants to build more private detention facilities, detention jails here in New Mexico. Use our money to give private prison companies the opportunity to run them. Are you okay with that? No! He wants us to be scared. He can't deport all of us. So this is a form of terror to keep us scared in our homes, in our neighborhoods, in our schools. But we will reject it. 1 week after the election, our members came together. They demanded that we have a meeting at Somos, Pueblo, Unido here in Santa Fe. And they said, we will not be silent. We will force our communities to stand with us. We will not bow down to the bullying and the threats of this administration. They also said, which you'll appreciate because we're right here where we are, we've been fighting this governor for 6 years. We've learned how to fight, we know how to win, and we will survive 4 years of Trump. If there's one thing our families are, that's creative. We've been avoiding the migra for 15, 20, 30 years, and we will continue to work hard to defend our families. But we need you to help defend our values in this country and in this community. So there are 2 things that we're working on that you can help with us. How many people here are from Santa Fe? Okay. How many people have signed a petition to strengthen our sanctuary policies? How many of you have come to a hearing at City Hall to demand or send an email to our city councilors that we will not take no for an answer? We are working really hard to make sure that Santa Fe is in the best possible position to reject these threats by the Trump administration. The Trump administration. But it's not over. We have a couple of folks from Somos. If you haven't signed a petition, it's really important. And that way you get connected and you know what we're trying to do, what movement at the local level we're trying to create. We're trying to create a high bar for New Mexico. We're trying to create strong policies so that other communities in New Mexico can start doing this in their communities as well. So tomorrow there's a Public Safety Committee meeting at City Hall at 4 p.m. here in Santa Fe. Who's going to go to that meeting? I want to see more hands! It's important that our police chief, who sits on that committee, is hearing directly from community members about how this isn't just about immigrants, this is about the safety and well-being of all of our families in Santa Fe. We also, on Wednesday, before the full city council, there's going to be a vote at 5 p.m., another big public hearing. There was a big finance committee hearing last week. We need everyone to come out and show these councilors that we will be brave and we will be brave together. We also have a memorial here, a Senate joint memorial sponsored by Senator Richard Martinez and co-sponsored by Representative Bill McCamley. It's a strong declaration against the Interior and Border Enforcement executive orders, and it calls on our congressional delegation to not fund this attack on our communities. So if you have an opportunity to talk to your legislators, that's really important. We must demand that they take a stand against this racist and costly war against immigrants in New Mexico. Are you with us? Yes! We can't do it without you. Are you with us? Yes! Thank you.